On the 16th day of September 1928, God started to writing early. He wrote till very late. He rode out on the ocean, chained the lightning to his wheel, stepped on the city of West Palm Beach, and the wicked hearts did yield. South Bay, Belglade, and Pehokee tell me they all went down. Over the city of Chosen, everybody was drowned. Out around Okeechobee, all scattered on the ground, the last account of the dead they had, more than 2,500 found.
In 1928, Palm Beach County had a service 70 years ago. And this is the second one since then.
So it is that we gather here today to declare that those who lie here and others who died like and with them, but perhaps lie elsewhere, did not die in vain. That we who gather here do highly resolve that on this site shall be erected a fitting memorial to the legacy of those uncounted thousands whose bodies lie a moldering in this mass grave. We resolve that they have not been, nor will they ever be forgotten. For those who shared that dreadful experience with them, but were blessed to survive, have been kept among us long enough to pass the baton and the torch.
This was probably the largest loss of life of black people, the most black people killed in a single day in American history.
Everybody knows about Hurricane Katrina last year and how many people died, but it still didn't come close to how many people passed away in the 1928 hurricane.
If there had been 674 white folks buried in this site, there would have been a memorial up here a long time ago. The other mass graves in the county that were impacted or developed as a result of the storm had markers on them for decades. This one went unnoticed for about 74 years.
In the heart of the black community, and among some of the oldest neighborhoods in the city of West Palm Beach, at the intersection of Tamarind Avenue and 25th Street, sits a 1.5 acre lot containing the remains of some 674 unidentified men, women, and children, victims of the Great Okeechobee Hurricane. They were migrant farmers and laborers of western Palm Beach County. In life, they helped turn a South Florida swamp into a booming tropical mecca. In death, they were pitched into a trench and left to be ignored for 3/4 of a century, neglected and nearly forgotten.
Part of this site was purchased in 1914 by the city of West Palm Beach to be a dump. Again in 1928, they purchased more property from the county to turn it into, to make a pauper cemetery. In 1927, the Woodlawn Cemetery, which had paupers plots available, was filling up. A man named John Glass got the last plot somewhere towards the end of December 27. And as a result of that, there was no place to bury paupers. So the city negotiated with the county and purchased 1.25 acres of land, 1.5 acres, 1.48 acres of land to be used as a pauper cemetery. That land was purchased December 27 and wasn't used until the hurricane.
If this hurricane had drowned 3,000 white businessmen in downtown West Palm, or if it would have smashed a black tie affair out in Palm Beach, they'd still be talking about it. But it killed poor, mostly black migrant workers in the interior of the state, away from the Riviera, away from the fancy hotels. And it was 1928, and who cared? These were expendable people. They weren't even Americans. Most of them were from the islands or from the Deep South. These weren't just second-class citizens. These were invisible people. And that's why nobody had any compunction about just digging a hole and dumping 700 bodies in it.
Most of them were immigrants. Some of them probably didn't speak English or understand it well enough, and they didn't know how to protect themselves. We're living in substandard housing, and of course the flood came. Probably many of them didn't know how to swim, and they drowned.
This county is one of the largest agricultural producing counties east of the Mississippi, if not the world. And the people that are buried here were migrant farm workers who were harvesting the crops and tilling the fields that made this one of the largest agricultural producing counties in the world. And they were totally ignored. They were abused when they were thrown in here without a coffins. And they were disrespected when they were covered over and not marked. And they were forgotten and disgraced by leaving this place as a weed field for as long as it was.
Florida was the Deep South. Maybe it isn't now, but it was then. And so the idea of putting the blacks in one grave and the whites in the other was an automatic. There was no decision. And that wasn't even the great tragedy. I mean, it was unpleasant that they separated the bodies, but the real tragedy was that while the white mass grave in the back of Woodlawn was marked and properly treated with respect, the grave for the almost 700 black victims was not marked for 6 decades. And at one point they rerouted the street over it. That's the tragedy, that's the outrage.